Welcome to Mystery of the Soul. I'm your co-host Leo, a psychic medium, a Reiki master, an EFT tapping practitioner, and a shaman. I'm joined by my good friend Julia, a doctor of physical therapy, yoga instructor, and Reiki master. Our podcast explores the depth of the soul, the spiritual, and the supernatural.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mystery of the Soul. It's Julia and Leo.
Hi, guys.
So we wanted to get into a little bit of a discussion today about a topic that is really, I find, challenging for a lot of people for multiple reasons. And it's surrounding loss and grief. That's something that I grew up being very fearful and having a lot of uncertainty about. I don't find that it's something that is commonly discussed with many people. And my, journey through my young adulthood, I didn't actually experience a lot of loss or death. I'm very fortunate. I still have all four of my grandparents, which is quite incredible. And we had some, family that we knew, and it was always a real struggle for me when I found out that someone had passed. And it wasn't until I was older and more recently, I experienced my first very close to me loss. And that was when my husband and I suffered a miscarriage. And it was really, really challenging because we were going through something, but we also were doing it individually and then trying to do it together. And that was a huge challenge because it was hard to navigate how I was feeling and how he was feeling. And I think that that's something that anybody who has suffered a miscarriage, people always try to say something with really good intention. And sometimes it just comes across in a really hard, harsh way. I remember a friend had said to me, well, you're older. And so, you've got to understand that this is something that happens. And I was like, I know I'm older, but I also don't really know how that makes me feel. And it didn't make me feel better. And I think we sometimes struggle with, like, what do we say to somebody? I'm sorry for your loss or my condolences. But I think that it's something that really, it's a challenge because we don't have open conversations about these things.
I think a lot of it has to do because, like you mentioned, that you were fortunate that you didn't have a lot of loss when you were younger. And I think a lot of people are either in that boat, or some people do lose a lot when they're younger. So I think there's different perspectives. And then I think depending on your age at that time and what you're exposed to, and let's say if you're a kid, the adult role models for you, whether it's your parents or family, what they think you can handle or can't handle.
Yeah. And, we as a family, we lost our pet, our dog Juno, last 2 years ago. And my kids my boys and my daughter, they didn't know what life was without her. She was with me before they were born. And when it came time for us to say goodbye to her, it really started to stimulate a lot of these conversations of, what can we be saying that might be comforting to people, whether it's children or whether it's other adults. And so my husband and I sat down and we talked about things. And, we were saying, how can we explain this? And, different people have different beliefs of where do we go and what happens to us. And I think that can be wildly different. For our family, what worked is to just go down to physics. Energy cannot be destroyed. And so we found comfort in the fact that we were not making up a story or maybe sharing something with the kids that someday might not really align with them. And so, we explained to the kids, like, her energy, our dog, that energy can't be destroyed. And if that energy can't be destroyed, we may not know where that goes, but we do know that it's still there and it exists. And so now they look for Juno to make her appearances. Mm-hmm. We were in Walmart the other day, and my daughter saw a toy that was Vita the vet, which I had never heard of. And she said, Mama, look. And so I looked over, and it was Vita the vet. I was like, oh, there it is. And it was Vita the vet giving Juno a bath.
Oh, funny.
And I said, kids, come on, come look at this. And the boys were like, Mom, it's Juno. Wow. Oh my gosh. And I was like, here she is. She's giving us that sign.
Yep.
And I know we've had our conversations about other signs that you'll see, or things that stimulate that feel good or that memory of someone. And I think it comes in different ways.
It does. Yeah. A lot of people get signs where a lot of people can relate to seeing cardinals or dragonflies. My wife, we lost her dad. I think it was maybe around 2020, somewhere around that area. But he comes through as a hawk when we kind of spot his energy. And it was interesting, like lately, in the last maybe month or so, my wife's been feeling like I really need a sign from my dad. And so we were out grocery shopping the other day, and I think we were at Starbucks working on some stuff, and we're on our way over to the market basket, and I was pulling into the parking lot, and just as we were pulling into the parking lot, a huge red-tailed hawk just landed on the light post. And I've stopped. She's like, look, see, there it is. And she says, oh my God, that's what I've needed.
Yeah. And so more recently, we had another loss in the family on my husband's side. And it was the first time that I was present during a wake or funeral, that after doing my attunement for Reiki and a lot of the work that I've done with Leo, I was much more conscious and aware of the charged energy in the room, the emotion, feeling attachments to some things, and then being able to step back from other things and just be in a supportive role for the people who were really having a tough time. But again, it stimulated a lot of that conversation. And we have a niece that really, this is the first loss that she's had. And we were both able to, I think, provide a little bit of comfort with, again, talking about energy cannot be destroyed. And I think that having the ability to give people something to digest and find like a level of understanding of what's going on can be really helpful in those moments. My own kids, our kids, they had a lot of questions about it, and it's challenging because, especially if we're dealing with our own loss and our own grief surrounding death, it's hard to step back and then explain that. It was challenging when we lost our pet, because I was grieving the loss of my dog that I had for 15 years, as well as navigating the grief and the loss that my children were experiencing.
Right.
And I think that that's something that, we don't always realize, that, we're going through something, but the people around us are going through something. And being able to share that experience with others, as well as have that place to be able to experience that on our own, can be so important. I think that it's having more open conversations about these topics can be really helpful for people and give them something to help just navigate the circumstances. And I'm by no means an expert on this.
No.
But, we do have coming up, we have an interview with this wonderful woman named Sue, who's going to dive deeper into these topics with our listeners. And I think I'm hoping that we'll be able to ask some of the questions and get some answers from her and learn about her experience and what's driven her to, work to help others to process a lot of these emotions and navigate that path of, what do we do?
Right. We don't always know what to do, but it's also okay to not know what to do as well. With Sue's personal loss, it directed her and changed her trajectory to, figure out how to deal with her own grief by pursuing learning how to deal with grief. And now she coaches grief recovery programs with people.
And I think that that's the other big thing is that I would encourage people, offer something that you think is helpful. And if you're not sure what to say, you can also talk to the people around you and have them help you figure out, how can I say something that's comforting to somebody else? It's tough because I had that friend that, made the comment to me and it didn't land with me, but maybe that would have landed with somebody else and provided a little bit for somebody else. So I also encourage the people who are going through it that when people say something, even if it seems really icky,
it may not be their intention.
Yeah, it's, and I think that in most cases, people have really good intention behind it. They just don't know how to translate that in a way.
I think people look for things to say to ultimately make someone feel better, but not understanding what that other person needs versus what you would need.
Yeah. And I think that Sue will help to clarify a lot of those things and, teach all of us how can we get support for ourselves and what can we do, where can we reach out, where do we have resources available to us, but also how can we then help the people who are around us and the people that we really love and care about, that we don't want to see them have a hard time and we don't want to see them suffering through the experience. I think that it's going to allow us to hopefully provide to all of you some more information and dive a little bit deeper into the topic and the subject, and hopefully provide everyone with just a little bit more of some strategies that they can keep and also some guidance as how to get through the process. So we're looking forward to this. We'll have an update for you guys soon.
Yeah.
And we're really looking forward to having her on the show.
All right. Stay tuned, guys, and we look forward to talking with Sue. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to Mystery of the Soul. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you have a question, topic suggestion, or just want to say hi, we'd love to hear from you. You can visit our website at mysteryofthesoul.com. Reach us on Instagram, email us at mysteryofthesoulpodcast@gmail.com, and if you're interested in booking a session with Leo, visit his website at leojmccarthy.com.